Good morning, everybody. This video's a bit late. I was supposed to upload one every Friday, but been a bit busy with my new sort of business venture. The weekend, obviously Father's Day. Yesterday was another busy day as well. So I was out doing some work. So this morning I woke up to some news on Instagram about a shooting that took place in Montreal this morning, or yesterday, I'm not quite sure. An active shooter taking shots from a building, and obviously then police have responded to that, and this gunman has engaged the police officers, and the footage is quite it's not graphic in the sense you don't see blood spurting everywhere and stuff like that, but it's graphic in the sense that you actually see a police officer get shot and he kind of crawls down behind a car, and that's it. He doesn't move. He's dead. And you can hear, whoever's recording it, you can hear, you know, them saying, oh, you know, he's down. And you can see the other police officer crouching behind a wall with the gunman on the other side, and they're literally like shooting at each other. I'd be crapping my pants. I mean, I was firearms trained before I retired, and you never ever once dream of actually being in that situation. It's always a what if. It's always the last resort, or you know, that's that situation that you kind of want it to happen, but you don't, because I would shit my pants, especially if I saw a colleague go down and I was next one in the firing line. That poor police officer didn't go home that day. Obviously another one was injured, and sadly a member of the public was killed as well. So my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone that is involved in that. Some sad news to find out this morning. I know it's in Canada, but you know, the police family, it's sad. And I'm not sure what happened with the shooter. I don't know whether he was killed or whether he was arrested or what, but if he was arrested, then he deserves everything he gets. So moving on to what I was going to cover today. Now, in my last video, I said about talking about the incident that happened at Kensington with sort of 5 or 6 officers, and I didn't talk about it because I didn't know if I was going to get those guys into trouble, and I wasn't going to name any of them anyway individually, but one of them messaged me last night, and I said, look, I was going to talk about, you know, what happened with you boys, and I didn't want to get you into trouble. And he just said, you know, do it. You know, you can't get us into trouble. So that's what I'm going to do. It was on the department I worked on, Royal in Specialist Protection, at Kensington Palace. Obviously we do cover Kensington as well as St James's and Windsor. Now, when we first heard of these allegations that came out, we were all gobsmacked, you know, because first we heard of it was an email got sent out by a chief inspector, and he basically condemned all of those involved. And this was just as the allegation had been made. So there'd been no investigation into what had been said. Is there any proof? Is there any witnesses? Basically, it was an email accusing them all of being misogynistic, bigoted, etc. And you know, the behaviour won't be tolerated. They will be dealt with, etc., etc. And then you're reading it and you're like, hang on a minute, what happened to, you know, investigating and finding out the facts before you send out an email like that? Surely you should send an email out like that after everything's been investigated. There is an outcome. There's a decision being made, whether there's discipline, whether people lose their jobs, etc., etc. That's when you do it, not before. So that kind of set the tone for how this thing was going to go down. Now, the lady involved, I've met her quite a few times. Obviously, she worked in the pass office at St James's Palace. Northern girl, quite bubbly, could be quite inappropriate sometimes in some of the things that she would say. She would be quite flirtatious, but it was all banter. You know, we didn't think anything of it. It was all banter. Again, there was nothing vulgar said ever. You know, it was banter between a couple of blokes, or if there was a female PC at the time, and this young lady. Anyway, so the rumour is, and I'm just saying, this is a rumour that kind of, and you take it with a pinch of salt, whether this is true or not. She gets a new job within the palace, but is absolutely shit at that job, and was apparently being sent back to the pass office. Now, she didn't want that, and decided all of a sudden these allegations then came out. There are no exact dates, no months, no days, no times of year, or anything like that. And these were incidents that had occurred over a period of time. You know, not sort of one day, then the next day, or a week. You know, these were spread out quite far by all accounts. So obviously these guys have basically all been told this allegation's been made of, you know, sort of misogynistic behaviour. Right, okay. What's happening with it? So it wasn't treated, although that sort of email came out condemning everybody, there was no, right, you're off the department until this is dealt with, you're not going to be allowed to carry firearms, you know, you're going to go and work at Lambeth or wherever it might be, until this is all put to bed, until we know an outcome and suitable punishment, if any. So some of the allegations are quite, well, when you hear them, you're like, what the fuck? How is that even? But obviously, because the Met being the Met has to look at these things as, oh my God, you know, we must be seen to be apologising for everything that's, you know, men, it's all men's fault, it's the men. So they were told, so one allegation was, so there's a PC on the gate, and that day he's not carrying firearms, he was carrying the role of a security officer. So he's in his normal sort of beat uniform, Met vest, belt kit, no guns. So it's his break time, so he thinks, right, well, rather than walk half a mile to the restroom, I'll take my belt kit and that off, and I'll put it in the pass office. So he goes in there, takes it all off, and he says, oh, I'm just going to leave this here whilst I go and get a cup of coffee from down the road, which is closer than the bloody restroom. And this young lass starts piping off, you know, saying, oh, what do you think this is? You know, this is not a dumping ground, etc. And the guy, he's a bubbly bloke, this geezer. He's such a funny, he's a typical, if you're not having a good day, he's a typical bubbly geezer, he's just got that natural ability to bring you out of just feeling shit. So anyway, he turns around, he's like, gosh, it's like being in Nazi Germany here, isn't it? And walks out. That's it. So he got accused of calling this young girl a Nazi. Then the next one, we've got a PC on the front gate at Kensington. Now, the pedestrian gate gets opened at a certain time, when people we know are going to start coming into work. So you're talking sort of like 8 o'clock, half 8. The main gates are open, which allows vehicles in and out. Now this young girl walks in and says to the PC, open the gates. And he's like, well, we'll open them, you know, when at X, Y and Z time. No, well, I'm telling you to open them now. He's like, well, I'm telling you we'll open them when we need to open them. So it kind of went backwards and forwards, and at the end of the day, he basically just said to her, look, I'll tell you what, you do your job and I will do mine. And that's it. That's how that one was left. Another one, and these, I've spoken to pretty much all of the guys about, you know, these allegations. So they're straight from the horse's mouth. They're not made up. They're not hearsay. Now this next one is literally someone sends a Facebook request Now, you're on post, and this girl comes out chatty, blah, 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 you know, you start building relationships, friendship and all that. He sent a Facebook request. A Facebook request. And she reported that as misogynistic behaviour. So, what? How? I mean, that one blew my mind for a start. And then you've got another one accusing a PC who stood there, and he just looks out the corner of his eye at her. Apparently looking at her in a provocative manner. Now, I don't know what... It just blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. Now, another one. This guy, this PC, again, he's a chatty bloke. Yeah, go and chat to anyone. And he knows a lot of people within the household. Knows a lot of people. Talks to everybody. Knows pretty much everyone by name, etc. And he would go every time he worked there. He would go in and say hello and stand there having a chat. She then complained that it was harassing behaviour, not to the point of harassment, but he's going in there all the time and chatting to me. I just don't. And these, at the end of the day, all of these blokes were basically made to feel like they were like major criminals. Now, if it was such a big thing, like at the time, why weren't there, as I say, why weren't their household passes taken off of them, their authorisation to carry firearms taken off of them, and sent away somewhere until this was all put to bed? So anyway, fast forward like a year and a half, and the Professional Standards Unit for Royalty and Specialist Protection decides there's no case to answer. They basically got nothing, no punishment, nothing is going to happen to them. It's, we found that there's no case to answer, so that's it. Superintendent, however, decides, oh no, this isn't good enough. I must make an example of these men. And this is a female superintendent. I must, to me, and this is my opinion, and I'm not alone in that opinion, and even the female PCs on the department are of the same opinion, that these guys were just being made an example of under the misogyny umbrella. So yeah, she basically decides, right, you're all going to get reflective practice. Now, reflective practice is pretty much a rap on the knuckles, just be aware of your behaviour, etc, etc. But it still goes on your record for a period of time. Now, two of the lads emailed that superintendent and said, we're not happy, or I'm not happy with being given a reflective practice. We've done nothing wrong. Over the last year and a half, my life has been made hell. I've been made to feel like I'm a criminal, etc, etc. She absolutely flipped her shit. Started saying, oh, you're victim blaming, you're victim shaming, etc, etc. And this is a group of blokes that have been made to feel like shit because of numerous spurious allegations, which didn't only just stand at police officers. Apparently complaints were made towards male household staff members as well. So, this isn't just sort of aimed at the police officers. So yeah, they've got, basically, that female superintendent was like, right, that's it. I'm going to see that your household passes get taken off of you. And lo and behold, one by one, they were marched into her office, been told, that's it, you're no longer part of Royalty Specialist Protection. Give us your blue card, which is your authorisation to carry firearms, and your household pass. Go and clear out your locker, get yourself over to Lambeth, and that's it. That's how they've been treated. Been treated like criminals, and it's disgusting. There is a culture within the Met, and it's a culture of, right, what can we do to make ourselves look like we're actually doing something to a problem that doesn't exist? Let's make a problem and then show that we're dealing with it, because that's what we need to do. And it's not just with things like this, it happens across the Met in all sorts of stuff. You hear some stories and you think, what the fuck? How is this possible? And it's just the way the Met's going. It's the woke corruption from the top down. It's not from the bottom. It's not from the bottom. The Casey report says that, you know, the Met is in trouble from the top down. And it starts at the top. Poor leadership. Taking too long dealing with things. Taking, you know, the wrong way to deal with things. And this is a classic example. A classic example. So, there you have it. That's, from, you know, my understanding of what happened at Kensington. And I just felt that people should know. You know, you don't always, you read it in the papers, you see it on the news, and people think, oh, a bunch of misogynistic cops, you know, they're racist, they're misogynistic, they're homophobic, transphobic, all these buzzwords that these woke lefties and the way this job is going like to make you feel. Anyway, right, I'll leave it there, and I will post another video. As I said, I was going to do one about some of my experiences and that throughout the job, so I'm going to do that probably. I might do it in a minute actually, and then post it later on. Just about some of the things that I've dealt with within the police that are, you know, to me quite impactful in terms of what the incident was, how it made me feel, and sort of the long-term effect it has on you. Anyway, I will post that at some point. Anyway, take care everybody, look after yourselves. Keir Starmer's out, but we're still going to get another numpty instead. Anyway, right, I shall speak to you all soon. Take care, look after yourselves, stay safe out there.